growing up with an emotionally unavailable father, someone who was very stubborn, egoic, left me and my inner child as I was growing up feel very, very abandoned, rejected. Right. So anytime there was conflict, anything that had happened, between me and my father, things were always left undone, unfinished. Right. My dad never had, the willpower, the strength, the empathy, or apologize to me to mend that current situation, what had ever unfolded between us. And so what this did for me going into adulthood was created narratives where I always needed to chase. I need to chase to receive affection, attention, right? Because if I wanted anything to be healed between me and my father, I was the one that had to go above and beyond, right? That's how that narrative was created, right? My dad turned his back, and if I wanted my daddy's love, I had to go and seek it, right? I had to change things about myself to be able to receive his attention, his affection, his admiration, right? To feel validated more or less from my father, I had to tweak little parts of myself. But I grew up thinking that I always had to chase and I always had to be the initiator if I wanted any sort of love, attention, affection in general. And then what this did for me over time was basically I had a lot of loveless relationships, right? I had a lot of relationships that rejected me, where I really settled in love, and it created this narrative where every time I choose love, it ends up being a gigantic mess, right? Anytime I follow, quote unquote, my heart, um, it fell apart. It ended up being far from what I thought it would be. And that was because I was coming from a place of chasing something that I was missing from my father, right? So in everyone, unconsciously, I was looking for that validation that I never received as a child from my father. But it was being exactly mirrored back to me, the exact experience I had with him. Right? So as I went into adulthood, choosing these partners, chasing these people, I would then get mirrored back rejection, abandonment, all of the unhealed wounds within me from that relationship, from that dynamic. Right? So as I've healed all of these layers of abandonment, of rejection from my father, one, I forgive him, right? This was all unconscious from him. And I'm able to rewrite the narratives to know that, one, everything that I had done, chasing, choosing, initiating, was all a lesson for me at the end of the day, right? It was there as my mirror, right? And then now I get to have the perspective, because a lot of that wounding is going to scar us, right? So right now, there's even, some things in my recent past where I initiated certain things and I was still rejected, but it was still a lesson for me. It was still something that I could heal and I can grow from, right? And so when we have that perspective, when we allow the past to be a marker of change for us, to be our lesson in the moment, that is how we allow ourselves to expand past it, right? So if I was to sit in that old narrative and say, well, I'm never going to chase or choose someone again, that's only blocking my own heart from experiencing true love, because now I know that I'm not that old person, right? I'm not that old narrative, right? I'm not experiencing that old narrative anymore. And that's the importance of healing and understanding where we're coming from when we're making our moves, right? So if you are now maybe at a crossroads, right? Do I do this or do I do that? What version are you of right now? And is there any part of a past version of yourself that you can go back and re-empower, inspire, right? Because a lot of this world is about taking leaps, about taking risks, right? Let's throw gender roles out the window, right? Let's throw the old narratives, the old programming. It's irrelevant when God is putting something in our heart, right? So I always follow that inner nudge, right? No matter what is the outcome of it, right? There has been circumstances where I'm guided to do and say things, and what I thought would happen never did. But that's okay, because I still got something from it. I still learned a lesson, right? I still received that new perspective. I still gained that new knowledge, that new wisdom from that circumstance, right? So if we let the old narratives 444 stop us, right, from taking leaps, allow yourself to go into that pain. Allow yourself to take an honest look at that trauma and allow yourself, your inner child most specifically, to help you move through that old pain. And you'll see that that old pain, it has a lesson. It's there for a reason. It's there to teach you something. But don't let it stop you from reaching for your goals, for chasing your happiness now, today. Because that is the number one marker of misery and suffering in this world, is not following what we want to do, is not listening to that inner nudge, our beautiful heart that's saying, go, follow that. You know it's going to bring you happiness. It's the past that stops us. So don't be afraid of the past. Use it as your marker to guide you to exactly what you know already inherently, innately in your heart is true, is for you.